Welcome to the Fayetteville Fire Podcast, where we talk about all things fire-related, safety tips, and things that are happening in our can-do city. I'm Don Cheetah, Captain Community Risk Reduction, and I'll be your host for the podcast. Between 2015 and 2019, Christmas tree fires caused an annual average of 1 civilian death, 28 injuries, and $13 million in property damage. We'll talk more about this later in our safety message of the month. On our last show, we said that this show is going to be about planning and research, but we got a very special guest today, Chief of the Fayetteville Fire Department, Mike Hill. Welcome, Chief Hill.
Hey, good afternoon.
So it's great to have you. For those of you that don't know, Chief Hill has announced that December 31st of 2023 will be your retirement date.
Yeah, that's great.
Congratulations. Coming up quick.
It is. Time is flying by.
It is, and I'm sure you haven't slowed down at all.
No. We're still charging hard and trying to get some projects closed out as much as we can before that day comes.
Right. So, what got you in the fire service?
Well, I'll say I grew up in the Cumberland County Fire Service. My dad was a volunteer in Community of Wade where I grew up. So, the spirit of community service was instilled early in us. And in the community fire department, it's a family affair. So we spent a lot of time, me and my brother both, as we were growing up at the fire station. I often joke that by the time that I was old enough to officially join the fire department at 16, I was probably better trained than some of the recruits that we bring in here today to Fayetteville. So it was a family affair. Odd thing, though, it was never really on my radar as a career choice. It was just a hobby, you know. But hey, as with a lot of things in life, things don't go as we plan. There is a higher power that's in charge, and I'm definitely an example of that.
Yes, sir. I can relate to that. After I got out of the Army, I didn't imagine being a firefighter for a career, and here I am 27 years later.
Yeah, it's funny how fate intervened. I've always had a career goal to be a wildlife enforcement officer. I don't think that was a secret. And in junior high school, there was a job shadowing program opportunity to come up, and we had to write down first, second, third choice of career fields we want to go in. And I put that, a game warden as my first choice, and firefighter was somewhere on the list. Well, as the proctors were going through and making selections, the Fayetteville Fire Department had an opening. That's where I was assigned. So I got to spend a day in junior high school riding around with who was then Battalion Chief R.C. Wiggins. You remember working with him, and who would have thought 40 years later that I would be sitting in this position today. That's
crazy. That's cool. And yeah, I could see you being a wildlife officer because you're a very much a fisherman and hunter.
Yeah, I do. That is my passion. That
I can relate to that also. So when did you start with the Fayetteville Fire Department?
1993.
1993.
Yeah. Again, following my career goals into a law enforcement field, went to school, majoring in criminal justice. Was working part-time at several other fire departments. Getting ready to graduate, I applied everywhere, Fayetteville being one of them. I actually had a job interview, the same fire department the same week as the Fayetteville Police Department. And the fire department just called first, and it came into the department still not really planning on staying, but it was a great stopgap employment opportunity for me, and just fell in love with the culture of the fire department, the brotherhood and the job and the shift life that we all enjoy, and I guess from then there I was hooked.
Used to enjoy, right?
Yeah, used to enjoy.
We talked about that the other day. The daytime thing cuts a little bit in them hobbies from what shift life was.
Yeah, that's the truth.
So what was your first assignment?
I was assigned to Station 1 downtown on Bow Street. One of the last stations, we joke about it. They actually had the brass poles that we slide down. And, you always remember your first assignment. And I think, like I said, the culture of the firefighters that were assigned there at that time, that's really what hooked me to stay in this for a career.
And I can relate. Back in the day, before we got so many stations, we became such a large department. Pretty much all new firefighters went to Central Station, Station 1.
Right.
I mean, I know I was assigned there when I got here in '97, and you were still rotating in and out between there and getting into the hazmat team.
Yeah, it did. I say I lived a sheltered career early on. I spent the majority of my time with the department when I was on shift in Battalion 1. I would rotate between Station 1, Station 2, and Station 3 as I would promote it just seemed like, I was just in that cycle. Go to hazmat, they would move the hazmat team back downtown. It's just, it was like being in a washing machine.
Right.
Couldn't get out of. So I did spend the most of my suppression career in Battalion 1 in the downtown Murchison Road, Ramsey Street area.
And I think a lot of people that I know, and as long as we've been until we became so large in 3 battalions, a lot of the firefighters either stayed down in Battalion 1 or they stayed out in Battalion 2. There wasn't a whole lot of crisscrossing, so to speak. I think there's a lot more movement now just for our sheer size. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, for sure. And we have a lot of attrition. We have a lot of firefighters leaving the department, moving in the department, and that creates the need that we tell everybody, don't get comfortable.
Yeah. I think an old battalion chief, Danny Matthews, said, "Be like a cat and keep your stuff in the box."
Yeah, I think I've heard that.
It's a little bit different. 25 years ago, you didn't have near the attrition, so you didn't have near the amount of hires per year. 3 to 5. I think the year I got hired, I think there was a total of 7 in an entire year. I'm sure you can relate to that.
Yeah. Again, I think part of it's generational. Employees we see today, we're bringing our recruits in. I really value a pension. I think people take for granted what value is in a pension related job. And it's just, to me, it's surprising to hear a lot of the young recruits we get in today, and we talk about the advantages of pensions and some supplemental retirements that we offer, for 20 years, and just here to combat, well, I don't plan on being here 20 years, different generations, the way we come up, that's wherever you were employed, you were committed to that employer, and that's, you were there for life, and that just doesn't seem to be the case anymore.
Yeah, and it's not just the fire service. I think it's just the generation, whatever job it's, where you and I were raised, you get into something and fell in love with it, and here we are. So what are some of the different assignments you had in your career? I know you were at Station 1 when I first come on, and then you started rotating into hazmat.
Yeah, I did. And I tell you, when going into the fire chief selection process, that's one of the things I think that really helped me along. When I got to that point, I had been assigned to or overseen every assignment within the Fayetteville Fire Department. Suppression side, I had been assigned to engines, trucks, squads. I'd been assigned to the hazmat team, to a rescue company. So operationally, there was, I had done pretty much all of it. Again, like I said, I'd spend most of my time rotating in Battalion 1. But then an opportunity came about. I was a battalion chief, assigned to Battalion 1, Station 14. Had been a battalion chief on shift just a little over a year, and got a very unexpected call to the chief's office, and I was told I was being reassigned to daytime, which was one of the most painful things I'd been through. Talk about upsetting your life.
Right.
Swallowing sand spurs is kind of what I compared it to. But the fire department was exploring the accreditation process, and the Chief Nichols was looking for someone to help, spearhead that process, that project. And like all good soldiers, I mustered up my reply was yes, sir.
Yeah.
And he did give me the acknowledgement and say, hey, if you'll give me 2 years in this position, I'll let you get back to shift. And the accreditation normally was a 5-year process. And, so I went in with the team that was being put together and said, all right, guys, we got 2 years to get this 5-year project done. Let's get to work. So that's a good motivation in that. But I think something happened to him. I've always loved the fire department, love working for the fire department. But that exposure in that position, being involved in every aspect of the department and into the inner workings of the city, I fell in love with the fire department and didn't even realize it. So that was, a great catapult to my career. And then, true to his word, we got accredited in just a little over 2 years, and Chief let me go back to shift, back as battalion chief. But for just a couple months, and then some assistant chief openings were coming available, an interim opportunity. And this time I asked to come back to daytime. And, from then I just I steadily moved up in administrative assignment as assistant chief, deputy chief, and then ultimately to the fire chief. So.
Yeah, that's when you first go from shift to daytime, you go kicking and screaming. But once you get on the daytime side and start to adjust your life, from being off 4 days during the week, start to adjust it, it becomes more of a. I mean, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed the time of being with family during the holidays and the weekends, and a lot of things when you're on shift. I'd go shopping you go shopping all day while your spouse is at work, and
Right.
it was nice to do things together a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, there's some benefits there. One of the hardest adjustments I had was sleeping. I'd spent the last 15 years of my life sleeping every other night. And then to be home and be able to sleep every night, I was just getting too much sleep. And I couldn't sleep, So it took a while to get used to that. But,
Yeah, that's you go from sleeping every other night because when you're at work, you usually didn't sleep.
Oh, yeah.
Especially Battalion 1.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But it is something to be said about sleeping in your own comfortable bed as opposed to the dorm bed, so to speak, of a fire station.
Well, we joke, what better job is there when you come to work and they issue you sheets? But we know you really don't sleep at a fire station. I mean, you're there, you may lay down off and on a couple times during the night, but you're never really sleeping.
Some guys do. But you're right. I don't think once I became a supervisor, it was almost like no sleep because you're constantly in tune to afraid to miss anything. So what was your favorite assignment?
Well, like I said, I mentioned the accreditation position was most influential, but I would say favorite assignment was probably my time as a company officer at Fire Station 3. I spent about 6 years as a captain there. And again, you're in charge, but you don't have all the responsibility. You set the tone for the day, the pace for the day. And we've often preached that the company officer is the most influential position on the fire department because you control 100% of the equipment and 90% of the people. And just to be able to have that experience, that one-on-one dialogue, with the troops and also the interaction with the community in emergency response posture, I think that was probably my most enjoyable time.
Yeah. What about Central Station ping pong?
Yeah, well, I do have a legendary paddle mounted in my office right now.
Do you still have it?
I do. And again, you never forget your first assignment. You really don't. And ping pong was a big part of Station 1 culture. I can remember, more than once the table was upstairs and being called down to the chief's offices, which was downstairs, where we'd have to clean plaster off his desk. So y'all getting too rowdy upstairs. So, but there were some good times there.
Yeah, and going back, you remember your first assignment. My first assignment was Station 1 A shift. The likes of you, the Reaps, Barch, a bunch of us, and it was a great time. We played ping pong every night, and if we didn't play ping pong, we were making Chief Wilder mad playing cards.
Yeah.
Who had the most? It's hard to say any one person through a 30-year career, but if you had to just say one person had the most influence in shaping you.
Yeah, that is a tough question because you learn from your leaders. You learn a lot from your good leaders. You learn just as much, from bad leadership examples. But if I would have to pick one person, I would say it probably would have been Chief Nichols, simply because he made me do something I didn't want to do that proved to be one of the best things that ever happened to me in my career. Had he not, and I hate to say forced, but if he had not forced me to go in that position, I might still be a battalion chief on shift today. So influential. I definitely think that he definitely made a mark on it. And then after that, I went to work for who became chief major, excellent supervisor. And I think one of the greatest things he did for me was let me do my thing. He was there for support and he was there for guidance, but he never micromanaged. And I think that was also very important in my career because it allowed me to grow naturally.
Yeah, and like you said, going to daytime in the accreditation, when you're sitting over at the operations, all you're thinking of is fire trucks, tactics, and then you go into that other side where you flip the page and you'll start seeing and we're going to talk to planning research next month, but you start seeing the data and how all that different things come together to shape.
Well, it is, like I said, and that assignment for accreditation was just a catalyst. I was also exposed, hey, since you're up here, we want you to manage the budget. since you're up here, hey, there's some grant opportunities. You want to write some grants? And so there was so many opportunities that I had there and exposure to things I would have never seen if I'd stayed in the suppression world that we talked about.
Right. And it's, it just takes that one person to kind of put you down a path you might not have expected and open up a whole nother realm of the service. So that leads us up to 2019. You became fire chief?
Yeah, very unexpected. And again, I kind of alluded to earlier in career, there's an adage, if you want your plans to change, just tell the Lord what they are. And that's pretty much been the echo to my career. Didn't think I would have a career in the fire service. Once I did, I never thought I'd have a career in the fire service outside of shift life, and never dreamed of becoming the fire chief. Here was never on my radar. But I tell you, when it come that time, I felt like I was kind of obligated to it. Number one, we had always had fire chiefs promoted from within. They had never brought in an outside fire chief, and then being in the second position in the department at the time it opened, I said, well, I'm obligated to it. I have to do this. And a selfish part of me was scared. I knew how much work we had put into the fire department. I was very proud of what we had accomplished through the accreditation, through improvement ISO rating, and I really just didn't trust anybody else with it. I was naive at the time to think one person could have that much influence. I know a little better now. We've been around since 1791. One person is not going to make or break the fire department. We have a very, very strong team. I mentioned to council last night that we have, plenty of talent on the bench. We have a playbook that's proven to win Super Bowls. So one person is not going to come in and upset the apple cart. But I'll tell you, I've always considered working for the fire department as a privilege. Very, very proud of that. But nothing compares to the honor that it's been to be able to lead the heroes in the Fayetteville Fire Department. Just the sacrifices that I see you and your coworkers make every day to keep the community safe, and just to be allowed to lead, the group of people, it's been an honor more than what I deserve.
And it's an honor for us to have one of our own that come up, through the ranks all the way up and reach the pinnacle. I think it's a two-way street there. I would fair to say. During your time as chief, what are some of the accomplishments you're most proud of?
Well, I'll say my accomplishments, and I'll go back up a little bit further. Maybe some of this happened before I transitioned to fire chief, but I think I was, very instrumental, influential in that part. But I think my accomplishments are parallel or with the organizational accomplishments. We talked about the accreditation model with that. Currently now, there's still just over 300 accredited departments in the world. Our ISO rating, or public protection classification rating, Class 1 is the best you can get. There's over 30,000 fire departments in the country. Only 117 are both accredited and have an ISO Class 1 rating. I mean, that's world class. That's in the top half of 1%. And that's something that, by far I'm very proud of the department, and I celebrate that at every opportunity that I get.
And do you feel that, it did start back when you were battalion chief and asked to get into it, and as you move up and we're accredited now, did you feel extra pressure as the chief?
Oh, yeah.
Going in the next accreditation process, like, don't let me be the one to screw this up or something?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's definitely with that. And, when you're driving, you feel, you definitely feel like you have more control over the process. But you have to trust that you've prepared your people to, take it to the next level, and let go of the wheel, and just watch them grow and watch them develop. But there is a little bit of hesitancy. It's kind of like being a driver's ed instructor. When you're sitting on the other side, of the vehicle there, you just have to have a lot of trust in the people that you've got in position. But I've never had a reason to worry.
Right. So what are some of the challenges?
Well, I think the organizationally, the challenges big we see right now is with staff and being able to stave off some of the attrition, to keep employees long enough here to at least get our investment back in them. We spend a lot of money and time into training, and we have employees that leave within the first 3 years of of employment, that we're not really getting the money back we've put into them. And slowly over time, that degrades our experience level. And you see, probably in the field, much clearer than I do from the office, that we may have a fireground operation going on, and the most senior firefighter's got less than 5 years of experience on the ground. And that bothers me. I do have concerns with that. We try to make some of that up with training, increase in training, but that loss of experience through that growing attrition rate is a challenge for the organization. I think for the fire chief, for me, the biggest challenge coming in was trying to serve so many masters. You remember the city's senior leadership team, but you also have to be a leader through the fire department. You also are a community leader, but you also have to be there to support your family. So being pulled in so many different ways and trying to give 100% to everything was a challenge for me to try to get priorities figured out and be able to adapt and cover all those bases.
Yeah, it's a lot when you're the guy. Everybody wants a little piece of your tail, right?
It seems like it. And again, and we have 350 employees, 150 retirees at any one time on our books. And I consider our employees members of our department just as much as our current employees do. So there's always needs. There's always someone's in the hospital, someone's had a death in their family, somebody's having a baby being born. So there's so many things to celebrate with our staff and with our people outside of what we consider the business component of what the job is. So it is. You get pulled in a lot of directions. And I said, being able to balance all that has been probably my greatest challenge.
And I'm glad you brought up very beginning of the show that this is a family. And as a chief, when you have all these, it's like all your family members are having all these things.
That's exactly right. And I don't feel like I have to be there. I feel like I want to be there.
Yes, absolutely. And I know of a few fires that I've seen you out in the middle of the night and Sunday nights. And
yeah, I don't come out to as many as I used to, but I'm starting to slow down a little bit. But definitely, that once it's in your blood, that you feel like that's your place.
And I think it means a lot to especially young firefighters, when you're on one of these major incidents and, oh, wow, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, there's chief of the fire department there to make sure everything's all right and all the needs are met.
Right. And there's a fine line. I've always tried to be there for support, but I've never wanted to be there to feel like I needed to take over, or I didn't want my presence in any incident feel like I didn't trust anybody, like I was having to watch over their shoulder. So it's always been there just for support.
And I can attest to that, because I think we had the Family Dollar up on Ramsey Street, and didn't even realize you were there. You were kind of back in the corner a little bit behind the telephone pole.
Yeah.
Just hiding out. Some of the other accomplishments, we talked about accreditation and ISO, but how about our cancer initiative and how far that's come?
Yeah, I think we've really pushed with that. It's something I wish I had known more about as a young firefighter coming in. I think we all wish we had known more about it. But once we recognized that the prevalence of cancer in our industry, we've really put a lot of effort into trying to keep our firefighters as safe as possible. Great work with what was retired Captain Leonard and now Chief Ferguson. They spearheaded some programs that brought some great education in. I mentioned in a few minutes, talking about more grants. We were able to get some grant money in that started our actual physical annual screening programs, which was very important for us. We were very blessed with City Council when we requested a second set of protective clothing for everybody to give us the ability to wash our turnout gear, but then also have a second set to wear for that next call. And I think it was 2016 that they approved the purchase of the second sets of gear. So we've come a long ways, and really it's kind of encouraging now when I read an article of things that you should do to prevent cancer in the fire service. We're already doing most all of them. So I'm very proud of our department and our city that's been able to embrace that.
Yeah, I think taking the initiative. So anything you would have done differently? I never say anything you regret. Anything you might have done differently?
I don't think so. Again, like I said, I'm not sure everything's worked out like I had planned it to start with. I definitely had some assistance, some divine intervention that's probably put us on a better path. But I really don't know of anything seriously. I joke that I would have never touched the uniform policy. Again, it's very personal, trying to please everybody. I learned really quick that's not going to happen.
No,
So,
yeah.
I should have paid attention to my predecessors and just say, "Here's your uniform, wear it, and be quiet." But no. In jest, I really don't know of anything that I would do differently. Do it all over again.
So what's next?
Again, I'm just along for the ride. I'm scared to throw much out there because it'll change. I'm leaving it to the Lord's hands. Wherever He leads me to be is where I'm going to go. I know in the short time, I'm going to go get back on the back of a fire truck. While I still can.
All right.
While I still enjoy it. I've had several opportunities presented to do that on a part-time basis. So I am going to take advantage of some of that in the interim until I figure out what I want to do when I grow up, kind of thing.
That honey-do list?
Yeah. But I've got a lot of fishing, a lot of hunting trips I got to make up for too. So.
Yes, absolutely. Well, sir, I appreciate it. It's been an honor to have you on the radio today, and we wish you much luck in your future endeavors.
Well, thank you. Like I said, I'm not going anywhere. I'm only be a phone call away.
Thank you. All right, back to our safety tip of the month, Christmas and Christmas tree safety. About 19 million Americans are going to decorate a real Christmas tree this year. Do you know that electrical problems are the source of nearly half of all Christmas tree fires? And also heat sources such as candles, heating equipment, placed too close to the tree cause 22% of home Christmas tree fires. Things to do, you want to check that tree regularly, make sure it's got water in it. Make sure the tree isn't blocking any exits and keep it at least 3 feet away from any heat sources. If you got an artificial tree, you should make sure it's labeled, certified, or identified by the manufacturer as being fire retardant. Don't overload them extension cords and electrical outlets, and don't string together more lights than are recommended by the manufacturer. Always turn off your Christmas tree lights before leaving the home or going to bed. We want you to have a safe and Merry Christmas. Thanks for joining us on the Fayetteville Fire Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to Radio Fayetteville on your favorite streaming platforms to listen to all our podcasts. Next time, we will talk about planning and research. Until then, be safe.